All right, welcome everyone to another edition of Deconversion Stories, and it feels like it's been forever since we've done a show because the last two shows had to get rescheduled because of an illness and other things. But yeah, today we finally made it happen. I actually had Bevin scheduled like way back in February or something like that, or January, February, and of course we got a dumping of snow, and I had to get my snow tires, and there was a lineup of people, and I was like, "There's no way I'm going to be able to do this." So we put it on the back burner, and we met up again at the Better conference, and we set it up there, and here we are today. Welcome to the show, Bevin.
Hello. Yeah,
Finally.
you're having to get some chains on your tires.
Yeah. Well, I had to get actual snow tires.
Oh, snow tires. Okay.
By the way, I don't have that car anymore.
What happened?
So that won't happen again. And I just drove home. I just literally got here about 20 minutes before we were supposed to go live because I just came back from the Kia dealership in my brand new 2023 Kia Sportage. So I got it's amazing. It was awesome. Nice dark blue, like a midnight blue color that looks really cool in the sunlight. Anyway, as I said, welcome to the show, Bevin. And we're going to get into I think here a little bit about your upbringing as a Christian, and sort of let us know about all the things that sort of made you second guess it or have doubts and go, I don't know about this crap, and how you eventually became the atheist that you are today, and then we'll talk about how you and Dave met up, and we'll get into the stuff that you guys do for activism and stuff like that.
Sounds good. So you want me to jump in?
Oh yeah, just jump right in, and if we have stupid questions to ask, you'll see us put our hands up and stuff like that.
Well, I think just like almost everyone that's raised in Christianity, it's something you've been taught since before you remember. So it's nothing that you really think twice about. It's just that I was not raised in the type of Christianity that I'm finding a lot of the people that in Dave's circle, in Dave's world. It was not evangelical. It was not fundamentalist. And even from a very early age, it was very much, I was taught the Christian stories, but I was also taught that it may not be quite literal. The only thing that was definitely literal was the Jesus story. Now, not all the Jesus parables, maybe all the fish didn't come and he didn't walk through walls and things like that, but he definitely resurrected. He definitely,
a zombie.
Died and resurrected and went to heaven. And because he went to heaven, we're all going to go to heaven. And actually the danger I found in the Christianity I was raised in is that there's nothing objectionable about it. We weren't taught hell. It was just love
really?
one another.
Wait, really?
Mm-mm.
They didn't say if you're naughty, you're going to go and burn.
Yeah, what happens if you were bad?
No. Everybody goes to heaven.
Slap on the wrist.
Puppy dogs go to heaven. Everyone goes to heaven. And there was no fear. I mean, when people died, they went to heaven, even if they were bad. They just got better or something, and they went to heaven. There wasn't this judgment. There wasn't a fear. Now, I was aware that had been in the past, that people were taught to fear God and the Puritans and all that stuff. But we were just sort of, I was just what I call feel-good Christianity. And now maybe there were some people in my church that weren't that way, but just the way my family was, my parents never told me I was going to go to hell or burn in hell. Anything they said, that wouldn't be very nice. I mean, that's what kind of God would do that. So they were already picking and choosing a little bit regarding that. But I find that a lot of people I know are kind of that same mindset. And so it's almost harder to, quote, deconvert and now I understand the term is progressive Christian, but it's harder to deconvert a progressive Christian because there's nothing negative that you're having to convince them of. I mean, there's nothing. So, and let's face it, it's kind of nice to think that, there's somebody out there looking over you, and when you go to heaven, everything's better. And so it's something I didn't put a lot of thought into when I was a lot younger.
hang on here. You mean it's nice to know that there's somebody watching over you, except for the time that I slipped and fell down that hill, except for the time that I couldn't find my car keys, except for the time that I got really sick and I was in the hospital for 3 months, except for the, like, what's he watching out?
Yeah. Well, no, those questions do. As you get older, you start going, well, wait a minute, I did have the question. I mean, I remember very young, like around 6 or 7, saying, wait a minute, if it was sort of like, if you believe in Jesus, you go to heaven. So what about the people that never even heard about Jesus? And the answer was, well, that they're not going to go to hell. I mean, there's just, because they didn't get a chance to hear about Jesus, they're going to go to heaven too.
They get a free pass.
Yeah,
because that would be cheating.
So there was definitely, if you knew about Jesus and you didn't believe in him, then it wasn't so much you were going to burn in hell, but you've just abandoned God. It's not that God abandoned you, but you abandoned God. And so that was something that there was no need to abandon God. God was great. And of course, as you see things start happening and just atrocities in the world and things like that, I don't know. I mean, you would just think that you would sweep that under the rug or something, but it was something that I just didn't give it a lot of thought until, because the way I was raised was so we had just the Bible stories and the Sunday school and everything was all nice. And it was the same stories every year. And you didn't really think that much about it. We never were asked to read the Bible, like memorize passages or things like that. It wasn't that type of thing at all. But when I was up for confirmation, it was an Episcopalian church, and we get confirmed around 12 years of age. And they asked us to read the 4 Gospels and Revelations. So I sat down and I read all the 4 Gospels straight through. It was the first time I'd ever actually read the Bible, like the whole book of one Bible. Actually, it was 4 there. And very quickly, just reading them all in a row, that's where you started to see the inconsistencies. You're like, wait a minute.
Oh, yes.
What's confirmation? Because we didn't do that.
Confirmation. It's just when you become
heaven, buddy.
You become quote an
pre-order.
adult. You become an adult in the church. After confirmation, you can take communion. You just sort of
so it's like the Christian version of a bar mitzvah or something.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah for Christians. And you're considered a Christian in the church. You definitely profess, it's not a, call to the altar type of thing, but you definitely profess whatever that you're now a Christian. And so they're trying to teach you, about Christianity, but it's the same things that you've always been taught. But it was at that time where I thought these stories don't all add up, and this was kind of odd. And then I hit Revelation, and I was shocked. I was like, "This is in the Bible?" Because I always thought the Bible was supposed to be these profound words of truth. And I'm 12 years old, and I'm reading Revelations, and I'm like, "This sounds like somebody dropped."
Guess who's not sleeping tonight?
Well, it
in King James speak.
Yeah, I mean, no. We didn't even have to read King James. We were allowed to. I think I had the Good News version, where it was all broken down into like basic English or something. But it just was something that I just thought. I started worrying because I thought, okay, this is not normal. This is not normal. I knew that wasn't true. That it was just fanciful. So if they were embellishing Revelations, then you start wondering what else got embellished. Mm-hmm. And I remember a funny thing that happened. So I'm feeling guilty now because I'm starting to have questions. I don't want anybody to know because I want to get confirmed. I want to just do everything right. And part of the confirmation, the bishop comes in and never seen this guy before. And you go up to the altar and you're sitting there like this and he blesses you or whatever. And it's all the children. We're all just sitting here in a row. And he comes to me and he just stops. And he goes to bless me and he just stops. And he just stares at me. And he was just going down the line really fast. And I'm looking at him like, oh, he knows. He knows. Oh, no. I'm going to get humiliated in front of this whole church, in front of my parents, everything. He knows.
I smell sin.
It was. I mean, he had the glasses on, the reflective, so I couldn't see his eyes. And I'm just like,
oh, no.
And And then he blessed me or did whatever he was supposed to do, and he moves on. And I'm thinking, what was that all about? Well, after the church service, I go up to my parents, and my parents are laughing. And I'm like, what's going on? And they said, well, the bishop stopped and talked to us. And what had happened is I'm an identical twin. I have an identical twin sister. He had done her a few children before. He got to me and he thought, why has this child snuck around to get her done? That was why he paused and looked at me with such horror, because he just thought somebody's playing games with me.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, but so that's what had happened. But
what's your name?
It was just that thing where you are very much, you have questions, but you don't want to say anything to anybody, because anything that you are questioning is going to bring down a really good story, about heaven. And so you just don't want to ask those questions. And, I'm trying to remember, I about that time when was that movie, Jesus Christ Superstar, came out. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I thought that was a documentary.
Well, oh my gosh, we just loved that movie. And I remember my babysitter next door, she was Jewish, and I think it converted her. I mean, she just was so in love with the movie. And because it was a very relatable Christ in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And, you felt sympathy. I mean, you just felt everything, because they very much humanized him in that movie. And so from then on, I was like, oh, this is great. Jesus is wonderful. Everything's wonderful. And I got to college, and I met some students. I did not understand then who they were, but they were with the Campus Crusade for Christ. And they were very much, when you first hit college, it's so new and you're out of sorts. And I'd come from a very small high school, and just, you're lost and you're not sure what's right, what's wrong. You're definitely exposed to just about anything. And these students were, they were really nice, they were really friendly, but they were good-hearted. I mean, they cared about people. They didn't pick on people. They were very open to the the geeks or whatever. They just didn't judge. Like, I had come out of a high school environment that was very much that way. And I just thought, wow, there's really people like that. This is really neat. And then they, explained, well, because we follow Jesus. I was like, I had never met anybody my age that talked about Jesus. I mean, that was just sort of like, some of your parents did. And I was blown away. And I was like, what? You actually want to go to church on Sundays? We were just drugged there by our parents. And so I just was like, this is great. I mean, these people are wonderful. And I really enjoyed it until I didn't. And that was because it doesn't take very long for that, veil to fall off and the judgment really starts happening. And, they suddenly were like, I was in a sorority, and they're like, no, you can't be in a sorority. You need to break up with your boyfriend. He's not a true Christian. And I just was like, I'm not good at being told what to do.
Wait, so your boyfriend was Christian, but he wasn't a good enough Christian?
Well, it's really funny. He was Catholic, and now
you can't trust him.
No, he just wasn't. Actually, what this group was pretty much were Southern Baptists, but I didn't know what Southern Baptists were, so I just sort of, I got caught up in the Southern Baptist cult, and but I just knew. I mean, how could Catholics not be Christian? I mean, that was silly, and I just really had a problem with that. They had a lecture, and I went to it. I didn't know what I'd gotten into, and it was about euthanasia, and in my mind, it's called death with dignity. In their mind, it was killing people, and I was like, no, that, and I just would say what I was thinking, and that didn't go over really well. And so then I started getting very highly ostracized by them. And by that time they had me, they got a roommate that was, a Campus Crusader, and my roommate wouldn't even speak to me, and they would have Bible studies, and I'd be locked out of my room and all this other stuff. And I was like, this is crazy. And it just, and it was funny because she would have this little plaque on the front of the door, a dry erase, and she'd write a Bible verse every morning on the plaque for students to see when they walk by. And I started writing a Bible verse underneath it that had to do with hypocrisy and you shouldn't judge people, and just, which of course she didn't appreciate. But
passive aggressive.
Oh, I was so passive aggressive. Well, you know what? I did not know why she was so, because this was actually before I became more outspoken. I mean, I was really trying to do what they wanted me to do. And I did have a friend that was with the Campus Crusade for Christ, but he was more open. I mean, he was more friendly to me. And I said, why does this girl dislike me so much? And he got really quiet and he goes, well, Bevin, he said, I think the problem is you have an upside down crucifix on the wall. I said, what?
You did?
Okay. I'm a big Blue Oyster Cult fan.
Okay.
And Blue Oyster Cult has a symbol that, oh no, it's an upside down crucifix with a question mark. And their symbol is actually from Saturn. It has nothing to do with a crucifix, but and somebody's gonna have to Google, I don't have it right in front of me, but what it looks like, but it just looks like a cross shape with a little hook at the bottom. And I was stunned. I said, that's not a crucifix. That's Blue Oyster Cult, but that really upset her. And she never told me all those months because I had a Blue Oyster Cult poster on my wall. So, it's little things like that. I thought, oh, this is nonsense. So I moved away from that group, but I still thought I was a Christian. I just thought they were bizarre and judgmental Christians, but we were all Christians. And
they started out all nice and went all judgmental.
Oh yeah, they started off nice, and that was the thing, is the Christianity I was raised in, we didn't judge people. I mean, we didn't think Mormons were non-Christian. We thought they were a little odd. I mean, could they really believe? Yes, there it is.
Your upside down crucifix.
That was my upside down crucifix. I felt like the Mormons. I was like, can you really buy the fact that that's, Jesus came to Utah? I mean, I didn't believe all of that, but I still felt, well, okay, they've added some extra Jesus stories, but we never believed in the Bible literally. So I was like, as long as they believe in Jesus, it's okay. And Catholics, they believe in Jesus. Anybody that believed in Jesus, whatever brand, was okay, that type of thing, or they were considered Christian. And I didn't think like other people, like Jewish people, were going to hell. I just thought that sadly they just had not been enlightened yet, and maybe
but there is no hell in Judaism.
There is no hell in Judaism, but I mean, I just was sort of like, well, that's kind of odd. How do you get through life not having a good fuzzy feeling about Jesus? And but I did have a really good friend. If he watches this, he'll know who it is, because
Dave.
Poor thing. No, not Dave. I'm still in my 20s. I mean, I'm in my early 20s. I'm in college, actually in my teens. I graduated when I was 20. But anyway,
this was very like 10 years ago, though. So
no, it's a long time ago.
He's trying to butter you up.
He was an atheist where there were no atheists in my college. I went to Charleston, South Carolina. There were no atheists, and he just kept trying to talk to me about my beliefs, and I just, wouldn't have anything to do with them as far as if we talked to religion, because I couldn't understand how someone could just not believe in a God. And it wasn't until actually right after I had graduated college, and he just wore me down one night. I mean, we were up really late at night, maybe had too much to drink, but he just kept talking and talking and talking and talking. And all of a sudden, he was doing the street epistemology, I'm sure, on me. He was asking me questions I could not answer. And it was almost like something snapped. And I just sat there and I looked at him and I said, oh my gosh, none of this is true, is it? He's like, oh my gosh, you finally get this, And I felt like all the air had rushed out of the room. I mean, it was just like, and I was just like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have drunk that last beer, or something, because I just was like, and honestly, I was so shook up that I just thought, okay, you know what? I just need to go to sleep. I'll wake up in the morning, which is a bad dream, that sort of thing. But I woke up in the morning, and as Dave always says, you can't unsee things. You can't re-believe in Santa Claus. And I struggled, and I just sort of thought, there's no way he resurrected. I know too much about science. And if he didn't resurrect, that means he's not in heaven, which means nobody's in heaven, and I don't know where they are. And
you could even, you don't even need the resurrection, because the resurrection isn't even necessary if there's no Garden of Eden story.
Yeah. Oh, I never believed in that. Well, the resurrection for us wasn't, we were told he died for our sins. I couldn't figure out how I did so many sins that someone would have to die for it. So I just sort of
you're born with it, apparently.
But it was more that the fact that he was able to die and come back to life and ascend into heaven. We will all die and ascend into heaven. There wasn't purgatory. There was just your dad, and then you float up to heaven, just like Jesus. And so, but
it's like that acid trip I took one time. No.
It could be, but what really amazes me is how, even though with that knowledge, I still couldn't let it go. Like, I couldn't let Jesus go. I knew Jesus wasn't.
You think it was like a security blanket type thing?
Yeah, it was something. I don't know, because I didn't. I didn't go to church when I was in my 20s. Nobody does. But like when I had children, I was like, I've got to teach them something, but I don't know what to teach them. But
science.
I did teach them science.
Good.
I did think, and this was, and I don't know if it's bad or good, I was aware of how much Christianity permeates our culture. And I didn't want them to feel uninformed or awkward or what is this? And like so many things you have to do. Everybody who gets married, everybody that gets their baby baptized, every funeral, you're in a church so often if you're in a Christian environment. And I wasn't around a lot of Jewish people. So the couple of times I went into a temple, I felt very much like, oh, I don't know what to do, where to go. And I didn't want them to feel that way every time they walked into a church. So I took them to church, and I didn't like, they started in with the, if you read Harry Potter, you're going to go to hell and that sort of thing. I was like, this isn't good. This isn't good. But I was really wrestling. I was like, where am I going to take them to church? And I was reading an article, and they were talking about this church. It was a Methodist. Now I was raised Episcopalian, was having this guest speaker for Palm Sunday. And that guest speaker was the Reverend John Spong. And as I said, I think Dave said, once you start reading Spong, you're one step out of the door. He is actually an Episcopalian bishop. Well, he's passed now, but he was an Episcopalian bishop that was very, very progressive. And what struck me about this article was a quote he said, and he basically said, he goes, if Jesus Christ died and died on the cross, and after 3 days he's resurrected, from what we know about science today, he's still resurrecting. And I was like, oh, I've got to go see this guy. So I went to the Methodist church to hear him speak, and he was very much, he really questions a lot of things. And yet, even then, he kind of still hangs on. And I don't know if he hung on because this had been his whole profession, his whole life, or if he just let it go. And he's written a bunch of books. If you read these books, you're thinking this man is definitely just one step away from full-blown atheism, but he couldn't take that last step. And but the minister of the church at that time, our church was being picketed, or I ended up going to that church with my children. It was being picketed by other churches for having him speak. But it was a very progressive liberal church, a Methodist church. And so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people there. They were just very, you could ask any question. Nobody thought it was blasphemous or anything like that. And
that's cool.
It was really cool. It was very cool. And the minister was wonderful. He just In fact, I remember one time I was at this little, I don't know, Bible study hour or something with him, and he was challenging. He was asking some questions, and this gentleman, he was like 95 years old. He would come to these little group sessions, and he said, "You know what? I don't understand, because one minute you're saying this, and another minute you're saying that, and I don't know what you want me to believe." And I remember the minister looked at me. He said, "It's not my job to tell you what to believe. All I'm trying to do is help you form your own belief. Sort of like, you got to
Right.
figure it out."
He's
And I was
trying to
like,
convince you. That's what he's trying to do.
wow. No, he wasn't trying to convince me anything. He was just trying to get you to ask questions to find what you really felt, what you really thought in your core. And
Gotcha.
so, and yet at the same time, I mean, every Easter, I posted, pretty little Christian crosses on my Facebook feed and all that stuff. And they're still there if you dig deep far enough. And,
Oh, I'm gonna dig.
just things. I mean, it just was sort of like again, it's easier to be a Christian than not a Christian in the United States. It's easier to be a
True.
believer than not a believer.
Well, it's
And
easier for you too. Like you get a bit more privilege because of it, right? So,
well, it's easier in that people don't look at you like you have a third eyeball. When because, like, for example,
why do you think I wear this? So they can't see it.
Well, when I met Dave, or actually the first time I talked to Dave, I mean, I didn't know his story
Ran
at
away
all.
scared? Oh, sorry.
Huh?
Ran away scared?
No, actually, I thought,
He's gonna punch
well, I'd
you.
been more concerned that, I don't know if you know the story. Anyway, I was more concerned he was married. And so I just wanted to make sure he wasn't married. I said, "Are you sure you're not married?" "I'm not married." I said, "How long have you been divorced?" He's like, "A couple of years." I'm like, "Why'd you get divorced?" And he said, "Well,
red flag.
I was an evangelical minister." And then he got ready to say, "And I am now an atheist," but I heard evangelical minister. I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." I didn't know. And then I heard it, because again, even though I was a Christian, I wasn't that kind of Christian. And I didn't want, the good news. Let me tell you about the good news of Jesus. No, I would run, because I knew what that was like. And then he said, "And now I'm an atheist." And I was like, "What?" I said, "You were in evangelical minister or evangelical Christian for over 35 years, and now you're an atheist?"
Yeah.
And
Blew
because
me away too.
I didn't call myself an atheist. And he's like, "Yeah." So, I had to ask him all about that. And, as he's talking, I'm sort of sitting there thinking, well, no, I don't believe in any of the tenets of Christianity. So why am I calling myself a Christian? And it's because it's easy. It's easy to do.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And since then, I have found that, like, my friends, they're pretty much, they're all Christian. A few of them are Jewish, but pretty much all Christian. They're sort of, but they're very liberal Christians. I mean, they're pro-choice, they're pro-gay marriage, they're fundamental Christians are shocked that there are Christians out there like this, but they really are. And very much
I
live
think a
and let
majority of
live.
them are like that.
Well, they don't seem to be when Trump shows up.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of them, but they really are still a small group.
Well, I don't
that
know
are
who's
that into
voting. Oh, well, see, that's my concern, because I feel like the Christianity that I came from is actually more dangerous than fundamental Christianity, because the Christianity I came from feels so good. There's no reason to question. It's so inclusive that somebody like Trump can come along and say, "I'm a Christian," and they go, "Oh, great, we're Christians," without really looking at what he was doing.
It's the Mike Pences that are out there that are the real dangers, because they're hyper fundamentalists. They don't look it. Looks like a normal. They just look like a normal dude, normal family, and all that stuff. But it's like, but I'm gonna strip every single right away from every single person I can find. Like they just sit there with a big Kool-Aid drinking smile on their face, ready to strip away rights. But yeah, those fundies are something else.
Yeah. But
Trump's just a faker.
well, yeah, and yet when he got into power, I was finding some of my friends were supporting him, and I didn't know why. And part of it, I think it was economic. I mean, people like, if they were prosperous, they wanted to keep that. They wanted the stock market to keep going up. They wanted low taxes. They wanted this, they wanted that, and they weren't seeing the other side of it. And they were like, okay, so there's a bunch of Christians that are supporting him. What's wrong with that? Aren't Christians good people? And I'm like, your brand of Christianity is good. This brand of Christianity is not good. And there's a difference. And I don't think a lot of Christian people see that. But if you say, so instead I'm an atheist, you're like, oh, you know, how can you be an atheist? What does that mean? And when I really realized this with, and Dave, I don't even know if Dave knows who I'm talking about, one of our mutual friends who adores Dave, and we consider her a very good friend. One night she just sort of looked at me and she goes, so you really don't believe there's a God? And I thought, oh my gosh, this whole time she's been thinking this in the back of her mind, you know, Dave and Bevin don't believe there's a God. How am I going to handle this, you know? And when people do ask me that question, I tell them, I said, I don't believe in God in the terms a lot of people think of God as this something over us, looking down on us, interactive, that sort of thing. I said, I do think there's something more, because I didn't put myself here. So
no, your parents did.
My parents did, but they didn't put themselves here. You keep walking back.
Their parents did.
Right. Grandparents.
But it's kind of like, I feel like there's more we don't know, but I feel like there's more we can't.
There's lots we don't know.
Yeah. And
there's tons we will never know.
Well, we won't know because.
But nothing's supernatural. That's the thing.
It's not supernatural. It's just if we don't know it, we think it's supernatural. Do you see what I mean? I mean, it's like.
I'm referring to things outside the laws of physics, outside the laws of nature. I'm talking about those kinds of things.
Well, from the laws of nature that we know. Like, for example, we may think.
But we haven't found any other ones, so.
Yeah, but what I mean is,
if there's something there, we would be able to measure it, because anything that exists in a material universe has to be measurable. It's got to be a form of matter and energy, right? That's it. You can't have anything outside of that, because if it's something outside, then it doesn't exist in this universe, because it can't.
But how do we perceive things? How do we perceive measurements? Through our senses, right?
And instruments.
There are instruments for it too.
Yeah, but our instruments, we have to be able to read the instruments or hear the instruments or see the instruments. Yep. Okay, so everything still comes down to, I know some people say we have 6 or 7 senses, but let's say we have 5. I mean, I don't know, we were taught that, but everything comes down to the senses that we are aware of. You know what?
Yeah.
Whether it's 5, 6, or 7, that's a low number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe there's senses that we don't have, so we can't perceive. You see what I mean? How do we know we
I still have issues with that, because the senses that we do have, we can confirm with one another what we're reading and what we're measuring and what we're understanding.
But that's again, that begets itself. The sense sees the other sense. But if we had not, we can't. If we had no vision, we wouldn't know there was light. We wouldn't know.
Still be measurable.
You could see things. We would know there were things. We would bump into things. We could hit sonar waves. We could make sort of an image that we could feel, but we couldn't see it.
We'd have another way to deal with it, right?
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think there's more that we can't possibly know, because when you look at the vast universe, and now with the new telescopes and everything, you know, look at our brain. Our brain is not even microscopic. It doesn't hardly exist. So just like an ant can't know what we know because they don't have a brain to know it, our brains can't possibly know everything that there is to know when you see the vastness of the universe, because we are just speck.
Sure.
And so
we're so insignificant, it's not even funny.
I got a new strain of flower. I definitely picked up 3 to 4 senses the other night. I was feeling things. She might be onto something, Neil, because I was feeling the magnetic field. I was feeling radio waves. I was feeling things.
And people from the past and everything else. I mean, really, it's
Oh my God,
amazing
walking right through me. It was crazy.
what our mind does to us. But we're still sensing it with the senses we know and can feel. I mean, we're feeling magnetic. If we feel magnetic fields, because we can feel things with our body, with our neurons are activating, that type of thing. But
Sure.
But in a way, that gave me comfort, because I thought, you know what? I'm trying so hard to understand this, but I'm never going to understand it. So don't worry about it. What is will be. What people are like, are you scared? And I'm like, I can't change it. So what is will be. And then my gut feeling is that I do see everything. And again, this may be limited to the senses I have, but in the long run, and I know people are like, oh, the world's falling apart, so with that, but it seems like the positive outweighs the negative. In the long run, when things are bad, like karma, like what we think of as karma, it always catches up in a weird way, that things try to be better than worse, just even biology, the things that aren't as efficient die off, that things are always trying to get a little bit better. And so I'm thinking, whether we continue on as people, I mean, as ourselves after life, it doesn't matter, because all of this is whatever this is probably for something better. And I don't know. I just try to take comfort in that and not worry about it. But it does scare a lot of people.
I don't want to talk about my thoughts on the afterlife, because they're not very good. Because according to physics, an afterlife is not possible.
Oh, an afterlife with, yes. No, I know what you mean. What I mean is, I just think there's more, like, people go, okay, well, the world's in the universe. Well, where's the universe? That type of thing. That I don't know. But I don't think we are that important. Exactly. I don't think we as people are that important. So I don't think we keep continuing on.
We're important here.
We're here, yeah.
We're important to one another, right? Like,
you
guys are important to me because you're my friends, and so.
But what is the purpose? I just struggle a little bit with. What is the purpose?
Does there have to be one? Does there have to be one?
We can make our own
just
purpose.
Like what happened? What is this? What is all this continuation? What is all this and the fact that all this regeneration? I find that very interesting.
We are a happy accident, actually. Conditions were right for life to be here.
Could be, but there's life elsewhere.
Well, I don't know that. I suspect it, but I don't know that.
I have faith that there's aliens.
If we look at scientific odds, I would say there's life elsewhere.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
And on the afterlife thing, I don't know about you guys. I'm downloading my brain onto the internet, and I'll just live there until I get canceled or deleted.
Possible. Have you seen that Netflix series about the future technologies and stuff? Oh my goodness! They can download all your information on your computer into a plant.
Altered carbon. That's what I'm hoping for.
No.
Just put me in a little hockey puck, and then just implant me into whatever body you can afford at the time.
Yeah.
But it amazes me how people will say, "Well, I can't stand the thought that I won't see people again, or I won't be myself somewhere else." And first of all, you can't. It doesn't add up. You can't see them in the same way you're seeing them here, so you don't want to. What kind of bizarre, little specks of glittering dust you're going to see people? I don't know, but I mean, I'm sort of like, I can't think of a scenario that I would want, because I don't know. I can't visualize anything that's not what I already know, that type of thing. So I'm not worrying about it. People say, do you think you'll see people again that have passed on? No, not in a realm that I know of. So
yeah.
I just
often wondered if the heaven thing is true, like when you die and you go to heaven, not if it's not true, but anyways, when you die and you go to heaven, what age are you? Like what version of you is there. Like, I get it if you die, you
It's
get hit by a
obvious.
bus and you're 7, you're probably going to be 7 in heaven. But that even rhymes. But anyway, but like, what
Conception.
if you live to like 103? Are you going to be 103 when you're in heaven?
You don't want to be
It's
that
conception.
way.
It's conception, Neil. There's a bunch of like yellow and whitish splats dancing around singing heaven, because that's the only consistent way of doing it. It'd just be a bunch of, couple of cell things just up there doing their
Leave my
thing.
cells out of this, all right?
So selfish.
Well done, sir.
Tip my hat.
But if people want to be immortal, the best thing they can do is to make an impact now.
Yes.
To do something
You
that
live on
lasts.
in people's memories. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
or you do something to start. You plant 100 trees that 1,000 years from now are still there, oaks or whatever. I mean, you do things that's the best way to be immortal.
You can actually, I believe there's like, how you can be buried regularly. You can be cremated and shot into space, which is kind of like what I'm thinking of doing. But you can also be frozen into this compact little like giant food tablet, and they will plant you under a tree, and the tree nourishes off of your body, so you literally become part of that tree. And then you're not going to know, but
and then your face starts to show up in the bark
then
over the years.
No, they do have green funerals though. I mean, they put you in a pine box that rots, or a wicker coffin that will rot away very quickly, and you go back to the earth. And I like that idea.
Yeah, that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson says. I want to be buried so that the flora and fauna that I fed off of my entire life now get to feed off of me.
Yeah.
So it's like the circle of life, right?
Bullshit. I didn't eat no fucking roly-polies my whole life, so I'm not getting eaten up by roly-poly. If the cows and the pigs want a piece of me, then yes, they may partake, but no bugs. I haven't eaten any bugs.
So we have to just send you to the butcher shop.
Yeah.
Chop them up, and
I will volunteer my body to half of my body to science and the other half to the fast food restaurant industry in my local city.
No. I'm never eating in Chicago again.
Must be curious.
So you touched on earlier about when you met Dave and stuff like that. How did that relationship kind of develop?
How did that relationship develop? Well, he lived in Nashville. I lived in Charlotte, and it was very much he had been over in Charlotte. It was very much long distance phone calls, that type of thing. But we
drunk dialing at 4 a.m. What are you wearing?
No, he was very polite.
Okay.
But
4:00 in the morning.
Sometimes you start getting to know somebody that way, and because there's not that immediate pressure where you're beside each other, stuff like that, you just start to get to know them. And I definitely was very interested in him, but he lived 7 hours away, and so we were just talking about when he would work in Charlotte sometimes, so he was talking about when he'd next come to Charlotte, and that was going to be at least a couple more months, and so waiting on that. And then he, if you've read his book, you probably
well, I've started to, yes.
See the part where what had happened was he just stopped calling, and I was like, oh,
the bastard.
These long distance relationships never work. And I hate
that guy.
I hate that guy, and I was trying to be cool and not contact him, if he's blowing me off. But after a couple of weeks, it was like a late Saturday night or something like that, and I let down my guard. And we had a thing where we would send each other songs that we liked, and so I sent him the song I liked, and he talks about that in his book. But he had gone silent on me because he had gotten a diagnosis of ALS, and he didn't know how to tell me. And so he the book actually truncates this a little bit. Dave admits he took some literary license, because there's no way he remembered all those conversations verbatim that he discusses in the book. But he shortens when he told me about the ALS as if we were texting back and forth. But what happened was he sent me a text the next morning. He goes, "Thank you for the song. It's really great. I'm sorry haven't talked to you or whatever, but I was diagnosed with ALS." He probably said that around 11 o'clock in the morning. I did not pick up my phone. I was with my daughter all day. I didn't pick up my phone until about 5 o'clock that night. So
Oh.
he sat there for 7 hours, me not
Oh.
responding. And of course, as soon as I saw it, I was just like, I knew exactly what ALS was because my background, I'm in occupational therapy, and I just felt like somebody stabbed me in the heart, and I was pretty, yeah. I think the worst thing is that, you know, you're just like, well, actually I screamed. I mean, I was just so like, what the, and I remember my poor daughter came running in. She's like, what's going on, Mom? You know, sort of that. And I'm like,
Looking for
oh,
the blood.
how do I explain to her that some guy that I know really more just through phone calls, you know? And I was like, oh, a friend of mine just got diagnosed with this. And then I'm like, he didn't call me, so do I call him? And what text do you write back? What do you say? You know, when somebody tells you something like that. And I was just sitting there going, so I just said, you know, I'm just going to say the truth. I have no idea what to say. I said, I'm just so sorry. And then he wrote back, he goes, I totally understand. And he goes, but, you know, we had plans to see each other. And so I was just like, you know, I just, you know, what are you saying? He goes, I'd still like to come to Charlotte and see you if I can. And I was like, well, of course. And he came to Charlotte, and we immediately talked about how, you know, with his diagnosis and stuff, you know, Dave was like, I'm not going to be dating anybody. I'm not going to be getting a relationship. And I was like, totally, I totally understand. I wouldn't
I
think
can
that'd be a
understand
wise
that thought.
thing. Yeah. Well, I didn't think it would be wise for me to get in a relationship with somebody, because I also was aware that it was a disease that takes people down very quickly, usually.
It can,
And so I was like, you know, he's going to be very incapacitated in the next year or so. You know, there's what do you do? But we can be friends. Famous last words.
Friend zoned.
Friend zone. Friend zone. But,
And they say he's just a friend. And they say, oh, baby.
you know, I think when you take the pressure off of a relationship is probably what makes it dangerous, because then you're not worrying about it becoming a relationship. So the next thing you know, it does become a relationship. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I've been in that situation before.
Yeah.
Get your eye off the ball.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I do. I mean, oh yeah. My friends are like, you know, then they meet Dave and they like him, and so they can kind of understand it. I think my family's a little still, you know, they don't understand. They don't understand. But, you know, and I understand it to the degree that I would, you know, I think I try to put myself in like my mom passed away last year, but my dad's shoes. And I think I've got growing children. I thought they came to me and said, you know, I'm dating someone that has a terminal illness. I would be like, oh, you know, because I don't want to see my child get hurt. I don't want to see my child get into, you know, financial straits. I don't, you know, just all the protective things you have. Yeah. But at the same time, I would very much, you know, if this person meant something to my child, I would value that too. I mean, because I want my child to be happy. Yeah, for sure. So that's what I just tried to explain to people. I said, you know, if you're worried about me, I totally get that. I totally understand that. But know that I'm happy. I mean, you know, this isn't, Dave doesn't have me locked up in a basement somewhere. I mean, I can make up my own mind.
It's upstairs. Like, come on.
It's upstairs.
Puts the lotion on its nut.
There's a rope pulley system. We got it. We have our way.
Just to tell.
Dave's writing down ideas now.
Don't give me ideas.
Note to self. Get ropes.
But it's been an eye-opening experience as far as meeting. I did not understand what Dave was doing really for about the first 6 months when we were dating. I didn't understand why it was so important for him to be talking about this so much, because I was just sort of like, isn't this self-evident? And it wasn't until I went to he belongs to a group in Tennessee, Middle East Tennessee. It started with Cass's Everyone Agnostics group, and they have like a mountain retreat, and I went to that. And I met people, and they started telling me, you know, about their experiences and growing up in these fundamentalist churches, and things that happened, and what they were told, and just some scary stuff, some not good things, especially that happened to the women there when they were girls and young girls, and abusive things. And I was just stunned. I said, this isn't religion. This is child abuse. And I just thought, wow, you know, yes, if I had come out of that kind of Christianity, I would have some strong issues too. And so I understood why people were gravitating towards what Dave was trying to say, because I think the church and in the leadership position and being able to come out and say, I was wrong, and it's okay, and you're not going to go to hell. It just gave people a sense of safety that it was okay to say I was wrong. And
sure.
So I finally understood it. I didn't understand it in the beginning. And I think people that don't come out of that environment, like my friends, they don't quite understand it. My family is, they consider themselves Christian, but they're very liberal as far as, not politically, but very, like not literal, and it's okay if you don't quite believe in heaven and that sort of thing. Yet at the same time, that atheist word just
shocks them.
And Dave kind of jokes about something that happened. We went to the Atheist Convention, what was it, back in April, American Atheist Convention. And
yes.
I told my father, I said, you know, this is Dave speaking at the American Atheist Convention. And he got really silent. We were on the phone, and he goes, you know, Bevin, I understand everything you're saying, which meant he understood my beliefs, because I don't think he's that far removed from them himself. He said, but I really just struggle with the idea of Dave proselytizing atheism.
But that's not what he's doing.
I know. And I was like, Dad, first of all, you don't go to an atheist convention to proselytize atheism.
No, they're already atheists. You don't have
Kind
to
of redundant there. I said, that's not what Dave's doing. I said, he doesn't care if you're an atheist or not. He's trying to show the harm of fundamentalist religious thinking. Even if it's not Christianity, fundamentalist Muslim thinking, fundamentalist any thinking, when you start controlling people's lives through make-believe stories, basically, it doesn't matter what genre they are, there's something very dangerous about that. And then I just brought up the things that are affected by that, like women's autonomy and sexuality, and people not having their basic rights. And fortunately, you know, my father does feel that people should have their basic rights, so he understood that part. But it's just that hiccup of the A word is just.
He can't even spit it out.
No, that's what I mean. He just can't say, you know, he just can't say it. And you know, that, what is it, the soft A, agnostic. You know, if I say to people I'm agnostic, they're fine with it. When I say atheist, they're like, you know, recoil. And I'm like, you know, one means I don't know, and the other means non-theology. Not a big stretch here.
Right.
And yet, I don't know. And I think it's a shame, because I think people are afraid to just take that one extra step and say, hey, you know, I don't even really think this to be true. And yet at the same time, they can't say that. There's a fear, even if they don't have a fear of hell. I didn't have a fear of hell, and yet for so long I couldn't say that. Some of it's a little bit societal rejection. I do get that. So I don't know, but it's been interesting being around Dave.
I every time he's around and I'm at an event or something with him, I always make sure that we get to hang out at least for a little while, anyways, because Dave's just a hoot.
Yeah,
love him to death. He's a great guy.
He is, and he's very caring, and he's very he's well. That's why I'm with him. I mean, it's just it's hard to put two and two together, but and that's what just it's been funny because some of my friends have gotten to know him, and they always react sort of like, he's a nice guy. And I'm like, what were you expecting? And you know me all these years. Why would I be with somebody that's not a nice person? But it's sort of like they're having a hard time putting those two things together. How can you be a nice person and not a Christian? And
right.
So like, it's not hard to do, unless you think I'm not a nice person. So I don't know. I just think if more, you were at the Better conference, and that was the thing, is people got to be more willing to speak out and speak up and say, I don't believe in all of this. It's not necessary. We're all here on this planet. We've got to get along. We've got to care about each other. Very humanistic values. Stop worrying about an afterlife. No proof of it. Probably it's not going to happen. And let's do right by each other here. And just stop worrying about, but people can't do that. They got to fight about.
Tribalism has been a thing since hominids in general have existed.
Yeah, and it kills me with this whole pro-life movement when we've got our world burning up from climate change. They're not going to take care of the world for all these babies they want born into the world, but they want the babies born. I'm like, we worry about the planet and then we'll talk about the babies.
But if it gets bad enough on Earth, then Jesus will come back.
That is true.
So
he was supposed to have come back during the time of his apostles. I think he's a little late.
He's got a very old apostle out there.
Yeah. 2,000-year-old apostle.
Takes very good care of himself.
He's not. But you know what? Even if something happened and someone came back and said, I'm Jesus, of course, I'm being fan.
They'd lock him up in a loony bin.
But if Jesus came back, no one would recognize him. They would lock him up in a loony bin. I mean,
Get in the back of the van, Ahmed. You don't have papers. Because he didn't look like Mel Gibson and all the other blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesuses.
But it's true. I mean, it's just, nobody's going to have a virgin birth today and anybody's going to buy it. So why would we buy it from 2,000 years ago? I mean, it's just, no. And I thought about that, but, that would be really interesting for Jesus to come back. There's just no way anybody would accept it. Or you would have a few people, but they'd be like, that's a cult. That's the Jesus cult. And they think he's Jesus, but he's not really Jesus, even if he was, and it's just nobody can get on the same page. Nobody's been on the same page since whenever.
Ever.
Never.
Ever.
Never. I mean, Christianity's never been on the same page. That's what just kills me.
That's why there's like 33,000 plus denominations of it.
Exactly. What is Christianity? It's such a wide divergent. So but everybody's
pick your flavor.
Is the right one. but yours is always the right one. That's what I always find amusing.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, your religion in general is always the right one. Because I was born here and raised as one, so it's got to be the right one.
It's typically the one you were raised with. Yeah. So.
I was born to Christians, Catholics in particular, and raised as a Jew. So we'll figure that one out.
Wow.
I mean, when Jesus comes back, you guys have so little faith. I'm taking his ass straight to the Maury Povich show, and we're going to figure out who the father is. If anybody can do it, it's Maury.
Maury Povich.
You are not the father.
And then God does a backflip off the chair. Like, I told you. Wait, what?
Wait, this just blew the tire on the entire fucking wagon.
Yeah. I didn't mean to say that.
All right, so Bevin, before we wrap this up and get into the after party, because we have now approached the hour, one of the questions I like to ask people, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what kind of advice would you give yourself back then? Get out now.
Get out now. Don't worry about what other people think.
There you go.
I still work on that one. Yeah.
That's good.
Just do.
I mean, there's certain people that you care what they think of you, but for the most part, fuck them. That's what I was saying.
But I think a lot of my life was built on worrying about and doing what I thought would make other people happy. And there were things I wanted to do and I didn't because that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing according to other people. And
Oh yeah, okay.
I wish I had had the gumption and the nerve to just strike out and say, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. And, but I was raised in the South and I was supposed to, go to school and get married and make babies. And when I wasn't on that trajectory, I was given a lot of hard looks like, what is your problem? So I did that. But
yeah, down in the South, it's got to be even harder. So
it is. Yeah.
Where I live, everyone's like, whatever. So, but that's Canada for you. We're fairly secular up here, for the most part.
Yeah, but no, I would just, and that's what I've tried to. I've never told my children specifically anything as far as what they should believe or what they shouldn't believe. I kind of just exposed them and then just told them,
let them make up their own mind.
Have questions, make up your own mind. We did go to church for several years. They never really discussed it. Well, I think my son was born atheist. I couldn't even get him to buy into Santa Claus. He was like, no, Mom. He was like 3 years old. I'm trying to talk to him about it. He's like, Mom, reindeer cannot fly. But
I know it's in your closet, in your room. Give it up. I saw that. I know it's a Tonka truck. Give it up.
Man, I miss the old school Tonka trucks. They were made out of actual metal.
I used to sit in my little yellow one, the little tipper one.
Yeah.
I used to sit in there, and me and my cousin would scoot around on there. And then I picked one up, and I was like, did they get smaller? Because this was like a big wagon thing. Nope. It's just when you're little,
everything's huge.
Big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's huge.
There's no way my butt would fit in that thing now. I'd crush it.
You can't even get your hand in there. I was like, how did I sit in one of these?
You were tiny.
I was a little guy.
But no, I don't mean don't worry about what other people think and that you just, step all over other people's feelings. I'm just saying don't let them judge you and keep you from making decisions that you know are best for you. Right. And just take those opportunities just because you might not get another chance, and just do it.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that for sure.
So
that's what I've been doing lately.
Well, that's great. And of course, with Dave, he's very much in that mode, which is a little interesting.
Oh yes.
But it's
Carpe the fucking diem, he says, right?
Yeah, and I understand, because he really feels like he's got this hourglass that's in front of him. But the truth of the matter is, we all do, and I'm sure y'all have seen this in your life too, where you're worrying about one person, it's the other person that something happens to them, and I'm just like, of course, Dave's like, don't say that, because I'm gonna be stuck. Nobody will be there to care for him. But anyway, but still, anything can happen, anybody, anytime. And so we do have to do the practical day-to-day stuff just to pay our bills. But
of course,
so many people just don't just go for it when they can. And I was that same way, very, very prudent, very frugal, very this or that. And so being around Dave has really helped a lot, and just saying, hey, you just can't live your life like you got a guarantee that you're going to be here for 100 years, because you don't.
That's right.
And you don't have a guarantee of an afterlife.
Nope. I say live your life for you, to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And
while being kind to others.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, that includes, living my life to include happiness for my friends and family and stuff like that.
Yeah. That makes me happy.
Yeah, for sure. It does. I like doing things for people, and they go, oh, wow, that's really nice. Or, so you get to see the big smile. Like, I had a ticket to Better, and I ended up giving it away. It was the ultimate ticket too, so to somebody. And then I threw another $200, so they had spending cash to get there and everything. So yeah, it was because Mike and I went in on the ticket anyways. So, and I still haven't given you money for that though, have I?
I knew it would come up organically.
Well, I asked you before, and you were like, "Oh, we'll talk about it later," and then we never talked about it later.
Well,
so.
we also smoked a lot of weed, Neil. I don't know if you remember that.
That's true.
So
Wait,
I'm
what?
not responsible for remembering anything.
What? Wait, what? Anyway.
Should never brought it up. You never thought of it again.
No, he'd have thought of it. That's what we're going to do, folks. We're going to get into the after party here real quick. We are going to take a bit of a break in between the two shows. So, people can do a bio break or refill their drink or have a smoke or whatever it is you do. So if you're interested in hanging out with us, let us know, and we'll get you a link and you can jump in here with us. I know that Mr. Warnock or Mr. Dying Out Loud Dave is going to be joining us as well. So you can have a chance to say hi to Dave because he's awesome, and you really should do that. And of course, you'll get to hang out with Bevin here, and if you had any questions that you may want to ask her in the after party. Mikey, great job, buddy.
Thank you,
Bevin, thank you so much for being the guest tonight. It was a pleasure having you on.
Having me.
Anytime. If you see us going and you and Dave are bored, you're welcome to jump into our after parties at any point and just hang out.
Okie dokie.
You have been christened.
Yes, that's right.
I just spritz Monster Energy drink on your face because that's my holy water.
That's right. What was it that you've been not communion? What was the
confirmation?
Yeah, you've been confirmed.
I've been confirmed.
Yes,
I've been confirmed. I do exist.
Mm. All right, guys out there in the chat, thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. It's always a pleasure having you guys here to make the show just a little bit fun. If you do, it's just a reminder, if you do have questions and you want that question to be noticed, the best way to do it is like $1 super chat, and I'll see it. I'm not asking you to spend money. Just if you want me to notice, throw a buck, and if you can afford it, and we'll see it. Also, thanks to my amazing patrons. Because of you guys, I'm able to do this. So I love that you're doing what you're doing for the show. So I appreciate you all greatly. Yeah, and that's it. We're going to get into the after party in about 15 minutes or so. So I guess, like I always say at the end of the deconversion story part of it.
Wait a minute.
What's up?
At Mikey Famine. If you want a link, don't put it in the chat. There's 700 of you and one of me. I won't see it. So don't yell at me. Just DM me. My DMs are open at Mikey Famine or Neil.
Or this guy at 604 Atheist or 3.
And then he'll tell me, and then I'll do it.
There you go. All right, everyone. Thanks again. And until next time, guys, like I always say at the end of the interviews, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. We'll see you guys next time.